What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Siepman, and coming up on today's program, we're going to be breaking down a potential Jalen Green NBA trade deadline deal where the Chicago Bulls could be landing one of the best up-and-coming stars in the entire NBA. And then also, I do want to talk about a couple trade ideas that I saw floated out there around Coby White and Ayo Dosunmu. I do want to give you guys my thoughts on that on the later half of today's video, but I do want to preface today's show by saying this. Obviously, a lot of these moves are unlikely. And, I don't anticipate the Bulls to trade Coby, Ayo, or even trade for Jalen Green. These are all unlikely moves. But the dog days of the offseason are here. And I think this is a chance where we can just have fun on today's show, talk about some crazy hypotheticals, and just talk some shop with you guys. But before we dive into that, I need your guys' help here. I actually had the bosses chime in right before we started recording today's show, and they said, how many likes have you gotten in the month of August? And I said 474. That is the most on a single video. So they said, can Bulls fans get 500 likes? I'd appreciate if you guys can help me prove my bosses wrong and hit that thumbs up icon. Well, let's talk about Jaylen Green here. As an NBA insider who works for FanSided, throw out the trade idea of potentially Chicago landing Jalen Green, not before the season, but during the NBA trade deadline. And this was Aaron Kellerstrass is what he had to say on it, who works for FanSided, said, it will be interesting to see which of these players Houston ends up keeping, as Green has flash star power, but been inconsistent while Sengun was putting up monster numbers before getting hurt, and the Rockets were better without him. But if the Rockets do make one of these players available, the Bulls should pick up the phone, as they might be able to snag a young player who is a better fit with Josh Giddey, Modest Buzelis, and Patrick Williams. And I'll say this off front. If Jalen Green does become available, I am incredibly interested in him. I'm incredibly interested in him, as I was big on him coming out of or heading into the draft. He's a super athletic player. He plays above the rim, and I think we've seen the development over the last couple of years of his handle, his physicality. Like, he just plays a more winning brand of basketball than we are accustomed to from when he did start his NBA career. But this was the trade idea that they floated out there. It was Coby White for Jalen Green. Straight up. No draft picks, no salary fillers, nothing in that regards. It was just a straight up player-for-player trade where they had the Bulls getting Jalen Green and then the Rockets landing Coby White in this deal. Now, Jalen Green last year was fantastic for the Houston Rockets, and he was mainly very effective in their little run they went on when they won 9 games in a row. They were really making that playoff push until they ran into the Golden State Warriors in the second half of the year. But Jalen Green was great, man. In only 31 minutes a game, he averaged 19.6 points, 5.2 boards, 3.5 assists. Wasn't the most efficient basketball player, but I do think that will come as he continues to develop throughout his NBA career. And on the Coby White front, I don't want this to come across as, I don't want to trade Coby White by any means. I don't want this to come off as I think, Jalen Green is a better player than Coby White. I think they have very similar value, as they had very similar years this past season. And, Coby White came in his rookie year. He, not took over the NBA, but he was fantastic for the Bulls. 15 points a game, 4.8 assists. And his numbers did go down, though, 2 years after that. But then we saw the resurgence this past year, almost averaging 20 a game, very efficient from the floor as well. But Aaron also, played both sides of this. And he said why the Rockets say yes and also why the Bulls say yes. This is what he said on the Rockets front. He said Houston is hoping to make the leap into the playoffs next season, and Coby White could conceivably help that cause more than Jalen Green at this point in their respective careers. While their counting stats are similar, White has been the better playmaker and has been more efficient than Green. The Rockets would get 2 years of guaranteed money of White at $12 million and $12.8, which will allow them to invest resources in other areas without losing production. Now, he also gave his thoughts on the Bulls front, saying this, Jalen Green, he's only 22 years old. So much like with Josh Giddey, the Bulls would be taking on a player they can build around for the future. Also, like Giddey, they would have some team control as Green enters restricted free agency, allowing the ability to match any offer. And a young backcourt of Giddey and Green with Buzelis at the wing is a nice trio to start with and would give the Bulls 3 building blocks on the same timeline. They would have an easier time keeping Green than extending White anyway. So this would be a way to potentially cash in on a guy they were going to lose. Now, I disagree with that part of it when he is saying that the Bulls could lose Coby White. Is I think he loves Chicago. I think he would love to sign a massive mega deal, here after this season. But, if the Bulls do trade for Jalen Green, I'll tell you what, I like this fit of the lineup a whole lot more than if you had Coby White in at the 2 spot. Now, you got Josh Giddey. He's going to be your point guard of the future. And if you get that athletic 2 guard in Green, pair him up with the wings on the perimeter in Williams and Buzelis, then you have Jalen Smith as the center of the future. This is a pretty deadly lineup. And, my argument over Jalen Green in this group over Coby White is just a fit. And I think we need to realize in the NBA, fit matters a whole lot more than we could imagine, especially in recent years. Like, you look at some of these past NBA champions, it's all about continuity. They have all played together for many years. They have all, been through the highs and the lows of the NBA playoffs. And, those groups have really, gelled well together, where I think if the Bulls were to trade for Jalen Green for Coby White, it would be a better fit on this team in comparison to Coby. Now, I would still choose Coby over Jalen Green if this was just in a vacuum, but with where the Bulls are at and the direction of the franchise, I wouldn't mind them taking a flyer on Jalen Green. So this is a trade idea he floated out there, but you guys let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Give me an A for accept or a D for decline if you would do this deal. Also, if you're a Houston Rockets fan coming across today's show, let me know your thoughts if you would take Coby White for Jalen Green. Give me an A for accept or a D for decline. Now, I do want to dive into just the idea of trading Ayo and Coby White, as they're both fan favorites, and I do think if the Bulls would trade either of those guys, it would be an uproar in Chicago, but I do want to give you guys my thoughts on that. But before I do so, I want to tell you guys about the sweet deal we have going on right now. If you guys head over to chatsports.com/BullsCombo, you guys can get this 2 t-shirt pack on a sweet deal. So if you guys want to rock some Bulls merchandise, this is the best way to do so. Click this link. It'll be in the comments and description of today's show. But check them out. Help support us here at Chat Sports and pick up some Bulls merch today. So why would the Bulls want to trade the future? Like, why would you even consider trading 2 of the only positive pieces on this Bulls roster? Well, my initial thought was the Bulls need to be in the spot where nobody is untouchable on this roster. And, I think when you are in the position the Bulls are as a franchise, you cannot be so, heavy, minded on not giving up a player if it hinders the development of the future of the franchise. Now, I do think Coby and Ayo, they could have been the backcourt of the future, but then you brought in Josh Giddey, and he's going to be running the point guard. I would have much rather had the Bulls stay with Coby and Ayo at the 1-2 and have, maybe go big on a wing or a center for the future, but they decided to bring in Josh Giddey. Now, could that end up being a mistake? We'll have to wait and see. But Bleacher Report did throw out this wild trade idea, and it was the Bulls landing a first-round pick for Ayo Dosunmu. It was the Bucks receiving him, and then it was the Bulls receiving Pat Connaughton and a 2031 pick swap. This is a dangerous pick because if the Bucks end up being terrible this year, I could see them maybe clearing house and even trading Giannis, this offseason. And when I saw this trade presented by Bleacher Report, my initial thought was I just think Ayo has became underrated. I don't think people are valuing what he did this past season for the Bulls, as he was one of the better defensive guards in the league. He was great in spot-up possessions. He was great in catch-and-shoot possessions. And he ended up putting up great numbers throughout the year. Now, his efficiency was fantastic. 50% from the field, 40% from downtown. For a guy who's averaging 12 points a game, that's fantastic. Now, will the Bulls ever consider this? I do not know. But if a team does offer you a massive deal for Coby or Ayo, you would at least have to consider it. And a big reason why a team could trade for these two is their contracts. Coby White is on one of the better deals in the entire NBA. $12 million this year, $12.8 million the year after. So I could see a contender looking at that deal and looking at the production he's going to put up this season, being like, hey, man, we'll give you 2-3 first-round picks for Coby, and maybe he's that piece that gets us over the top. But even a guy like Ayo, $7 million this upcoming year and $7.5 in 25 and 26, that's a fantastic contract. Those 2 deals, I will give the Bulls front office credit. Value deals, they were banking on those 2 taking that step, and they did just that. So got to give credit to Bulls, front office on that one. But listen, both Coby and Ayo could have incredible trade value at the NBA trade deadline. Like, if both those guys take another step in their NBA career and they just continue to develop, like an opposing team or a championship contender could look at both those guys as that missing piece, and plus they're on cheap deals. With this new CBA, if you could get a 20-point-a-game guy on a $12 million contract, that is one of the best deals in the NBA, or even a great 2-way role player in Ayo. That's one of the better deals in the NBA. So again, I wouldn't do it. It would have to take an offer that will absolutely blow me away, but it's at least got to be talked about here. But hey, if you guys made it to the end of today's show, give me a real one down below in the comment section. Show you guys some extra love down there. See where all the real ones are at that watch this entire thing. If you guys also want to give me a follow on Twitter or X, that's a handle right there at Pat Sieps, and I give you guys a follow right back.